Okay, here we go. Joe Blasco here on MUA TV Spotlight on Success, and our guest today is Mr. Conor McCullagh. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And you are, hey, you look great. You look, terrific. I remember you from class. You graduated from the Hollywood School, correct?
Yes.
It would have had to have been because it was 1989.
June of 89.
89. Good Lord. And what brought you to my school?
I was fresh out of high school and knew what I wanted to do right away. And there wasn't a whole lot of training up in Canada at the time. Mm-hmm. And one of the makeup distributors I knew up there recommended you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't waste any time.
Yeah, what distributor was that? I don't believe we've ever actually distributed.
There was a distributor in the suburb I grew up in. Yeah. And
yeah, it's okay. It's not important. But now you know, obviously everybody knows, I was the first to start professional makeup schools. But now there are really fine professional makeup schools, around the world.
Yeah, there's a few of them.
And when I say makeup schools, professional makeup schools, I'm talking, Hollywood style makeup schools. Right. There have been makeup schools, in Russia and Europe as part of college courses, for eons. But this was really the first time that a professional makeup artist, a working professional makeup artist, actually started at school. And I was very, very lucky to be able to do that in Hollywood and to be the first to do it, because I ended up with a tremendous amount of terrific, very talented graduates, that are just permeating the industry now and winning awards left and right, which is great. And so now, you graduated in '89. And you came to the school because you were interested, obviously, in effects, correct?
Yes, the focus was makeup effects.
Right. And tell me about your experience in going to the school. What do you remember about going to school?
Well, I was scared. I was 18 years old. It was the first time I was leaving my home at all, really, on my own. And but very anxious to get started in my career. So I came out to Hollywood as my first time in Los Angeles, and just jumped right into it.
Where'd you stay in LA?
I was staying at a house up in the hills that it was this really sweet old lady that had a relationship with the school, and she put up students.
Oh, that's over in the Los Feliz area off of Griffith Park.
Oh,
Judy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, she took in a lot of our students. She was great. I don't know whatever happened to her. But she was very, very good. What did you think of the school?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, it was a great experience, and like I said, it got me out to LA and great teachers.
Had you been doing any makeup at that point? I mean, just tinkering?
I had one book and was just trying to gather as much information. Of course, there was no internet.
Right. What book was that?
The first book I had was Techniques of Three-Dimensional Makeup.
Yes.
By Lee Bagan.
Oh, Lee Bagan, yeah.
And then I also had Tom Savini's Grand Illusions.
Right. Good book. Both good books.
Yeah, it's great to learn with.
Yeah, excellent. To start, to start. Now, obviously, once you got out into the industry, you learned so much more. I mean, you learned the basics in school. And you learn the ropes, and you learn about the politics of dealing with people in the industry and whatnot, aside from learning makeup artistry on a basic level, beginner's level. And beyond that as well, not just beginner's level, but enough to get you out there and get you started. I like to think that when my students graduate from my school, it's like they've really been in the industry. They should be equivalent to, their knowledge should be equivalent to having been in the industry somewhere between 6 and 10 years, depending on how much they've applied themselves while they're in class.
Right.
It's really important that a student know that when they go to a makeup school that they kind of relinquish all of their knowledge from the past, more or less, or at least put it aside just for a short time, and then to absorb everything that they're being taught, and then afterwards, marry them together. What they already knew, discard the things that they've learned not to be good techniques, and to hang on to the techniques that they've realized from going to school that are in fact valid techniques, and then to add the new things they've learned to those good techniques. And did you do that?
Well, absolutely. It's the way I see it, we really never stop learning. And now with the advent of HD, it's just added another element of it's really up the ante for everybody. We have to you can't get away with as much as you used to when it comes to prosthetics.
Right. Well, you have to be more meticulous than ever before.
Absolutely.
You have to really see that makeup through the eye of the camera more than ever before. I mean, you have to be, you have to understand that that camera now is seeing beyond what we actually can see in many instances with the clarity and all. And but back in the day, you know, when we do a makeup, we knew that we could get away with quite a bit because the camera would just, you know, diffuse it all out, make it look good. There were a lot of people that were doing makeup when I got into working at ABC, and I was there for quite some time, and I never ceased to be amazed that there were so many people that would come in to do makeup, and I would look at their makeup, and I just was appalled by what I saw. But when they got on camera, you know, it looked good. It looked all right. It was passable. You know? So, and I used to always teach my students, and we still do to this day, that if you're going to do a mediocre makeup that's going to look good, why not do a great makeup that's going to look fantastic? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Anyway, enough of that. When you graduated from school, like, let's go back. What do you remember? Are there any moments in school that really influenced you, or that made you know definitely that this was really what you wanted to do and that you had made the right decision?
I never had any doubt that I made the right decision, and I think what the school gave me that I wasn't getting on my own was some balance and learning techniques that I didn't even know I had to know. I had to learn like with beauty makeup and the hair work and so on. These were things that it didn't even strike me that I was like I didn't think I would ever need beauty makeup but today I'm doing that too. But it also plays a huge part in just learning how to color a face and so on. Same with the hair. I was hopeless with hair until.
And when you say hair, you're talking the laying of artificial
just
hair
handling
for
the
beard work
and so on. I had no idea what I was doing until until class. And all the techniques, just things I didn't know, construction techniques, accident simulation, and so on. Completely clueless.
Now these I understand that you have a nickname of MacGyver, right? Is it Conor MacGyver McCullagh?
That is a nickname.
And that is because?
That is because
you rig things?
That's because when I'm on set, I kind of had a reputation for, like, if we were in a jam, I could like raid the craft service table and create something usable out of food or whatever I could get my hands on.
Exactly. Yeah. I think some of that goes back to your training at the school.
Oh, sure.
Because I was very big on that. In fact, I'm doing that right now. I'm doing this mystery diagnosis show. And we're making blisters out of gelatin and strawberry jam, you name it. And it's a lot of fun. I remember, I think, once telling you after I saw your work, I can't remember the exact words, but I think I said something to the effect of, I think you found your niche or something. So obviously I was very impressed with the work that you were doing. Do you have any pictures of the work that you did while you were still in school?
I do.
You should.
I do, and they are, they're buried in a giant tote bin full of pictures that span the last 20 years.
You think you might be able to dig a few up for us?
Well, I certainly can.
Yeah, we'll try. We'll see if we can find them. Then we'll put them on, and you can see what he was doing when he was in school, and we'll show you obviously some of the brilliant work that he's been doing since he graduated. Now, speaking of that, you've worked with many of the great prosthetic artists in the business, and can you name a few of them and tell us about your experiences with them?
Well, over the years, I've worked with John Caglione, Tony Gardner, more recently with Wesley Wofford, who I think is absolutely brilliant.
Not that the others aren't. Okay, don't misunderstand him. All right.
And wow.
Do you work with Greg Canham on anything?
I worked with Greg Canham on Thinner and Space Truckers.
Let's talk about that.
Sure.
What did you do on Thinner?
On Thinner, I was brought in. I was mainly in the mold shop. We were making a lot of large molds because there was a fat makeup.
Right.
There was also a full size articulated puppet of when the guy becomes emaciated and thin.
Right.
So it was just a lot of large scale prosthetic molds.
Right. That was really brilliant. Did you do a lot of the sculpting on that, or did Greg do a lot of that sculpting?
No, there was I was in one department on that show. I was there relatively briefly, and there was a whole sculpture department with seasoned veterans like Jim Cagle and Miles Tevis.
Oh yeah, Miles.
Yeah.
I don't know Jim. I know Miles.
Oh.
In fact, I interviewed Miles. He's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, all the guys were great.
Yeah, they're all at the top of their game. Moto Hata was there as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. The show obviously offered you a great deal of experience working with these people and seeing and observing, and you then went. What was the first show that you did? Where did you start right out of school? You didn't jump right into working, with the.
No, right out of school, my first feature film was a little independent sci-fi film called Extro 2, and there was only a crew of like 4 of us, and regardless of our experience level, we were responsible for everything,
Right.
including like large scale.
Did you get that through the school? Did we line you up for that?
No, that happened when it was actually through the distributor up in Vancouver that I knew.
Oh, I see.
He was partnered with a local effects artist.
Oh, I see.
So when I came back from school, I showed them my work, and they immediately asked me if I wanted to help out on this film.
Right.
So that was my first credit before I moved back to Los Angeles.
Now you are you still a citizen, a Canadian citizen, or are you now?
I'm a dual citizen now.
You're dual. You're
Yeah.
dual. And how long did it take you to go through that process?
A lot longer than it should have.
It was difficult, wasn't it?
It was a long process. I mean, and of course, before citizenship, there was green card, and before green card, there was work authorization. And somewhere along the line, a few years ago, apparently I missed an initiation, but of course, there's just a lot of red tape. And when I got back in touch with immigration last year, they informed me, and we rescheduled swearing in. So now I'm dual citizen.
So now you are.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And a very good student, a graduate of mine, is also a Canadian citizen, and Warren Kirshner. I don't know if you know Warren. And I've been wanting to bring him down to work at the school now for quite some time, because he's brilliant. He's like you. He's worked. When he graduated from the school, he went on to work for a lot of labs and all. Very, very talented. You'd get along really well with Warren. I know that. Now, let's look at some of the movies that you've done.
Okay.
All right. Let's check this out. Now, you're going to be amazed. These are really some terrific films that I had no idea, that he had done these films or worked on them as part of the crew. And excuse me while I put on my glasses here. Okay, let me see if I can find the actual. Well, first, right off the bat, I mean, there's so many of them. Okay, there's so many of them, and I will find the complete list. But there are a few here. Oh, actually, here we are. Here we go. I'm going to start. I'm going to start a little further back, and I had no idea that there were so many of the Children of the Corn movies. I didn't. I had no idea.
Most people don't.
Yeah, and you did a lot of work on Children of the Corn. This was back in 1999. Tell us about that.
The Children of the Corn franchise is, it's mostly gore. They do, had to do a lot of, like impalings and throat slashings and so on, and it was always on a shoestring budget. There was no time to make like customized prosthetics, And I ended up doing a lot of the effects I created for that film were either done out of the kit or out of existing molds from other shows.
Right, you pieced it together.
Yes.
Construction makeup and pieced generic, not generic, but just custom-made pieces for other projects. Right.
And sometimes it was just a blood tube up someone's shirt and hidden under the collar.
Right.
Just a lot of air pressure and blood everywhere.
Right. That reminds me of some of my old films with David Cronenberg. You ever see any of those old pictures I did?
Yeah, Rabid.
Rabid
was one of the first horror films.
Rabid, yeah. I designed all the stuff on that. I sent Bert Holland up to Canada to do it because I didn't. At that time, I was really busy and I didn't want to leave Hollywood. But I had already done David Cronenberg's film. They Came From Within, which was also released as Shivers. And that was the one with all the bladder techniques. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it.
You didn't see it? Oh, I'll show it to you. And anyway, it was a great experience. And, oh goodness, let's go down these. You have here Shallow Hell. Now, this was a great film. I really enjoyed this film. This is with Gwyneth Paltrow. And there was a lot of great makeup. This was a good message film, too. And tell us who was the department head on this film and how you were involved in the film.
On Shallow Hell, I was the makeup effects shop department head. I worked for Alterian Studios.
Yes.
And so that was Tony Gardner's company.
Tony Gardner?
Yeah.
Great artist. Really terrific artist.
Protégé
I don't know him. I'd love to meet him one day. I'd love to have him actually come on as a guest one day. I've seen a lot of his work, and some of his stuff is just amazing.
He always stays busy.
Yeah. That's fabulous. So now, did you do, when you say you were the manager of the shop, did you do sculpting, or did you supervise others, or how did you do that?
As shop supervisor, I would oversee all the manufacturing, and whenever I could, I would get my hands into some sculptures and molds. There was a really talented sculptor and friend of mine, David Smith, who designed Gwyneth Paltrow's makeup as well as her mother's fat makeup, and I would help out on set with those. And then I also, for other scenes, there's a scene with Zen Gesner, and he's wearing a prosthetic nose. I did that. There was several scenes with Brooke Burns in a kind of a geeky prosthetic character makeup. It was a nose and some eyebrow hair and so on, just to try to make her look less attractive.
Right.
And that was most of it. There was also Jason Alexander had a little articulated tail, vestigial tail, in the show as well. We made that as well. That's
great. Well, it sounds like you've been having a lot of fun. You worked some really interesting pictures. Jackass, you worked Jackass. Now you did a lot of work in that. Tell us about that.
We had
it seemed like a real crazy group of guys that put this together. It seemed like it was a lot of fun. How much of it was impromptu, and how much of it was scripted and planned?
None of it is scripted. They'll get, for a lot of their gags, they'll get permission from certain vendors and business owners to go into their establishment, but the whole idea is keep everyone in the dark. I gotta say, it's the most fun I've had, filming anything, because you're sitting in a van watching all this stuff go down as they're doing it, and you don't know what's going to happen. And they're just crazy. It's kind of like a candid camera. Do you remember that? Or oh yeah. America's it's candid camera taking a few steps further. a lot of steps further. And let's see here. Oh goodness. Freddie Got Fingered. Now that is an interesting title. I don't recall ever seeing that picture. Tell us about that. What? I'm almost afraid to ask what you did in this. That was Tom Green's directorial debut. Oh. And so it was, now for sure I'm afraid to ask. It had a very select audience. It was really designed for teenage boys. But the humor was very, a lot of it was vulgar. But again, great filming experience. I mean, Tom Green was great to work with, and there's just a number of gags in the movie that required our assistance, like fake legs and compound fracture. There's a scene where he guts a deer, and that was actually kind of one of the things that I supervised was him being able to gut this deer open, and the entrails pour out, and then he wears the deer like a coat.
I remember that.
Yeah, just before he gets hit by the semi-truck.
Right. That's funny. That was a funny film. And let's see here, going down the list here. A Dirty Shame. Oh my God, you did A Dirty Shame. Speaking of films that are walking the line, this is really an interesting film. This is a John Waters film.
Yes.
And we all know what John Waters films are like. I saw this not too many weeks ago at home, and I had never seen it before, and I was just blown away by it. It was hilarious, really hilarious. What did you do in this film?
Again, I was shop supervisor for Alterian Studios on that. I sculpted and applied Selma Blair's breast prosthetics for the film.
Oh, really?
And there's a couple things in there. There's a gag where they inflate and deflate, or she's hallucinating.
Right.
There's also a few.
You did that with bladders, and you inflated it? Or
yeah, we just
no computers.
2 air cannons, basically inflating and deflating. And there is a director's cut of that film that has Johnny Knoxville wearing an articulated albino snake penis.
Oh, jeez.
And I had the dubious pleasure of rigging that on set as well.
That's hilarious. Well, needless to say, you jumped into this profession with both feet running. A movie called The Bleeding, and this is not out yet, is it?
No, I actually thought it was coming out this past May, but I didn't see it.
It's a great title, isn't it? It's a good title.
Yeah, it's a vampire movie.
Tell us about it.
We shot it 2 years ago in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it's about a guy who unwittingly becomes a vampire hunter killer, and he's going after his nemesis, who turns out to be his brother, but he's a vampire played by Vinnie Jones. And it was a lot of. I mean, it wasn't a huge stretch as far as the vampire genre. There was a lot of there's bitings, and there's a decapitation, a disemboweling, an arm breaking sequence, and so I made all that, and of course all the dentures and so on.
Yes, very good, very good. I can't wait to see that. I have heard a lot, like I said, about that, and the Vampire Diaries. I think everybody knows about that.
Huge hit.
Yeah, big hit. Yeah. How was that?
That was a really good show to work on. Great cast. We shot 8 months in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was again, it wasn't it's not a real monster show. It's not like Buffy. It was more like Dawson's Creek. The kind of like the whole Twilight thing. It's kind of a teen romance, but they do have there's some really good action in the show when they do vamp and they do attack people and so on.
What excites you the most at working a film? What makeup? I mean, is there any makeup that you have done that has really just lit up your life, or is there a makeup yet that you would like to do, that you would like to see in a film, that you would love to to be responsible for creating?
That's a good question. I think one of the things I always want to do is try to is improve on my old age makeups. The quest for the most realistic, most photorealistic, most believable old age makeup. And I think that's something that's just ongoing. As artists, as makeup artists, you do one, you see it, and you're like, okay, I could have done this better. So that's one of them.
I just don't know how they can get any better, to tell you the truth. I just, and I know that we're always striving to do things better. And that's what drives us as artists, because we see something like Bicentennial Man with these brilliant aging makeups done in silicone, or The Ghost of Mississippi with gelatin, on James Woods by Matthew Mungle. And Bicentennial Man was done by Greg Canham, obviously, Canham. And then another Greg Canham makeup that I was blown away by was the recent The Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons.
Yes.
You know, with Brad Pitt. And I see these makeups on camera, and the aging makeup in that as well. You know, the woman in the bed, the old lady, the mother, grandmother, and which turned out to be his girlfriend in the film. I see these makeups, and they're in HD. They're photographed, digitally. And you see every pore, you see every detail. And I look at them and I go, it's just like, I'm glad I'm, at my age now where I've kind of like done most of what I wanted to do, because I don't really know that I'd want to be out there competing any longer. Although I'm still doing this mystery diagnosis show, you know what I mean? But that's a whole nother ballgame. That's diseases, But, and a lot of fun, and it keeps me interested and challenged. But you look at some of these aging makeups that these guys are doing, and it's like, geez, how much better can it get? It's really an amazing thing. But you always have to have that point of view as an artist, especially as a young artist, because the industry is always changing and always getting better and always getting more demanding. So the more demanding the medium becomes, the more challenging it becomes, and the more, as an artist, you want to hit that head on, and make your mark.
I've always said, the moment you think you can't get any better, you won't.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I still keep my hand in it.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to prove, what I'm doing. It's just the old veteran, the old part makeup man in me that, I'm trying to prove that, we can do these HD makeups, these diseases and different things, using conventional, construction makeup techniques, coupled with somewhat rigged prosthetic appliances and whatnot. And so far, I think I've managed to prove that. And some of the shows have turned out really, really well. I have to show these shows to you. I think you'll like them. Now, Osmosis Jones. Now, this was interesting. You have everything in this where you start with ingrown toenails and you end up with all sorts of things, effects. This was with Bill Murray. Tell us about Osmosis Jones.
Osmosis Jones is largely animated, but there was about 20 minutes of live action footage.
Right.
And
that's what you have.
Yes.
That's your domain.
Bill Murray is this, guy who just takes terrible care of himself. And I had to, there's this whole sequence where there's a zit forming on his forehead, and when they go into the animation of it, it's actually a bar scene inside with the animation, and these characters, these viruses, are congregating about what they're going to do.
And they're inside the zit.
Yeah, they're inside the zit. It's a bar scene inside. And what happens is a fight breaks out in the bar. We made an 8-foot by 8-foot section silicone wall that represented Bill Murray's forehead, and with a zit about 2 feet in diameter in the middle. And so as they're fighting in the animated sequence, you can see little bulges coming out of the zit until it finally explodes at camera.
Oh my God.
And then back in live action, the head of the zit actually lands on Molly Shannon's lip.
Oh my God.
Good times.
I love it. Now, let's talk technical. How did they position that? Were they shooting up at the zit so that all of that comes directly at the camera, or did it have to be propelled somehow to the camera?
We had the wall, the big wall of skin, was positioned at a slight angle, and there's a camera up on a scaffold pointed down, face aimed at the head of the zit.
Right.
And we had this large air mortar behind the silicone.
Right.
And we'd pressurize it, and I made basically took a Nerf ball and something that would compress, and I sculpted a pus-colored silicone over it, and then would stick it in the barrel of the air mortar, which was on the exterior, was just looked like a zit.
Right.
And so I just packed that on, and then when they said fire, we shot it right at the camera.
Oh my God! Did they put any protective glass in front of the
Yeah,
camera?
they had plexiglass in front of the camera because I dressed the zit with pus-colored Vaseline. So yeah, it was a mess when it fired.
Fun, lots of fun. I just love it. All right, and let me see. We've gone through so many of these. Let me do one more here, or two or three more actually. And The Killing Jar. Now you've just finished that. Is that finished? Or are you still working on that?
It's finished. They were in post last year, and I believe it's coming out soon. The Killing Jar was a very small independent feature shot in Charlotte, North Carolina. The director I've worked with on several projects now, Mark Young, wrote and directed it and edited it. And it's actually a really interesting picture about a group of people that basically get locked in a diner as they hear the events of a family murder unfold on the radio. And they realize through the course of this that whoever killed the family has to be in the diner. And from there, it just becomes hostage situation, and then a few people get blown away, and Michael Madsen's in it, and he's kind of the bad guy, and well, I don't if I
Well, don't we don't want it ruined for us, do we? No, we'll wait for it to come out.
But it's pretty gory.
Yeah, that's called The Killing Jar. And what's it like working in North Carolina? I understand there's quite a film community that's developing there. Is that true, or they come in and out?
I would say at this point, yes and no. I mean, North Carolina was consistently number 3 in filmmaking for a number of years until this recent incentive war has really set the film business on its head. It's gone, now it's Georgia, New Mexico, Michigan,
and Florida.
And now Florida, and it's come down to whoever's offering the best incentive. And a lot of the filmmaking has, over the last 2 years, has left North Carolina as a result.
Really?
Which is very unfortunate.
Have you worked in New York?
I have. Did a couple commercials in New York, and sometimes just flew out to do life casts of actors.
Right. Did you find yourself working more on the East Coast? Because you're a member of Local 798, correct? But you're not a member of 706, is that correct? Or are you also a member?
No, I'm not a member of 706. I somehow managed to go 14 years in Los Angeles without getting into the union. It was a totally different story from East Coast. It was very difficult, and on the West Coast, I spent a lot of my time in the shops doing the manufacturing and less time on set than I do now. Right.
And did you want to get into the union in Los Angeles?
Oh, yes. It was just never seemed to pan out.
Well, you're not giving up on that, right?
I'm not giving up on it, but I got into the 798 local welcomed me with open arms, and although I still go to LA and go to Vancouver for work, I've managed to stay pretty busy between North Carolina, Georgia, down here in Florida.
Well, we're very excited about having you as one of our prosthetics instructors here in Orlando and in Hollywood, and that's what we're talking about right now. We're negotiating.
Yeah.
So to speak. There's not much room for negotiating in this economic disaster that's befalling the entire world, but we'll see what we can do. But I'd really honestly like to involve you in this film that we're doing, because we're doing an actual film as part of the 32-week Masters 2 program, which is a more advanced program that is part of our accreditation package. And so that I think you'd find interesting. It's a zombie film, And there are decapitations, and there are disembowelings, and all that stuff that you've done many times. And I think you'll find it fun. And there's another makeup artist, a local makeup artist, who I don't know that you know him. You may know him. His name is Bill McCullagh, and he's quite a talented guy.
I love Bill McCullagh.
And Bill is just a real character and a real joy to be around. He worked for us for quite some time, and then there were some situations that took him away from us, and he recently called me, and I was quite impressed with his conversation, and so we've invited him to come back and to be part of the team here. Off and on, so it's going to be a really good team of people that we're putting together.
Bill and I met 3 years ago on.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we met on a film in Wilmington, North Carolina, called Bolden, and him and I, along with about 20 other makeup artists, were doing like nothing but beards for 3 months.
Great.
Beards and tattoo cover-up.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're really up on your beard work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Whether I wanted to be or not.
Well, that's what they used to do when we were, apprenticing. When I was apprenticing, it was an informal apprenticeship. It wasn't really a formal apprenticeship that I had with Ben Nye Sr. I was very lucky. He was quite a genius. I worked with him for about 3 years in his makeup lab, not prosthetics, but makeup. That's where I learned cosmetic chemistry. And but he would teach me hair work, and it was every day, do this, do that, they'd make chopped hair, and whatnot. But it'll be great to have you here as one of our instructors.
I'm looking forward to it.
Now, you're moving to Orlando, is that correct? You're going
Yes.
to be in Orlando.
Yes,
So you're
going to
to
be home base for now.
Yeah, excellent. And I may be able to work you into some of my mystery diagnosis shows as well.
Excellent.
Doing as a matter of fact, the next project that I have, which I think you're going to find quite interesting, is of a young boy who had developed a condition on one leg that was similar to elephantitis. I mean, his leg grew to gigantic proportions, and I'm having to reproduce it in 5 different stages.
Wow.
And eventually, unfortunately, they had to amputate his leg. But the story of how it all developed is very, very interesting. The mystery diagnosis people are amazing people. They really have a knack for finding intriguing stories. Unfortunately, people who have suffered through a great deal, but who have, in most cases, come out, shining, bright, and regaining their health. So I took on the project because I found it to be very challenging. And again, you wanting to stay in, keeping in the industry. But more than that, I found that there would be an opportunity for me to involve my instructors as well as which I haven't yet, but I will with these projects, because there's huge molds and things that have to be made. And I don't know if I really want to get into all the mold making yet, again. But the sculpting and whatnot, and the supervision of it, and all the application and painting and all that sort of thing, I will do, and all the on-set stuff. But I saw it more of an opportunity for me to bring in my students and to use it as a forum within which to teach them, and it's because it's all HD, which is really phenomenal. If you are you happy? Are you happy to be here? Are you happy to be in Orlando, or is your life going good? Everything is working out for you?
Life's a roller coaster.
Isn't it great?
But yeah.
Considering the alternative.
Yeah, it's got its ups, and yeah, exactly. Considering the alternative, the one thing, I'm blessed that I love going to work every day.
Yeah.
And I know that how rare that is, and one of the few people who can get up in the morning and say, okay, great, let's do this again.
Right. Excellent. Well, I want you to think that every morning when you get up to come to work at the Blasco Makeup Artist Training Center.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. It'll be terrific to have you there.
Thank you.
And I know that our students are going to enjoy learning from you very much. You have a lot of passion. And we see this in all the artists. This is nothing new. But it's always good to see. And I think that having you here after all these years is a real feather in my cap, and it makes me very proud to know that you've gone on to do so many wonderful shows and films, and that you're still very young. You're very young. You were 18 when you went to school.
Just a kid.
So now you're what, 28? So
Yeah. Okay, let's go with that.
I'll go with my coffee here. Lay off the coffee, Mr. Blasco. Okay, Conor, I want to thank you very much for being with me here today and with our audience worldwide. We have over like 2,500 viewers a day now that are tuning in all over the world. And what's helping us so tremendously is the fact that when we have someone on, they call all their friends. So every time there's a new person on the show, they call their friends and they say, hey, watch this, watch this, watch this. And then the Makeup Artist Trade Show. And by the way, we just did the Makeup Artist Trade Show. Did you go to the Makeup Artist Trade Show in Pasadena? All right, maybe next year. But the Makeup Artist Trade Show this year was like the most filled to capacity that I have ever seen. And I looked at all this footage and it was amazing. They had lines around the building practically, all the way down the hallway, then turned and turned and turned and turned. And I want to congratulate McCullagh on the success of this show. It's just phenomenal and much bigger, much more people than in the past, which I'm glad to see, especially with the economy the way it is, and everybody's kind of suffering. So it's good to see. And I do understand that a big reason, aside from the popularity of the show and the growing popularity of the show, one of the big reasons for there being so many people at the show was that Makeup Forever and Mac did this amazing promotion, and we're offering 40% off to people who were makeup artists and just lay people, and they apparently were advertising it in all the local newspapers around Los Angeles and on all the websites. And they offered this great discount and a kind of a lifetime discount. I sure hope that's not an indication that the cosmetic companies are doing poorly and they're trying to really bring more business in. But whether or not it is, I'm sure that they're going to succeed in doing it, so they won't be doing poorly for long if they are. And so it was Makeup Forever and it was Mac, and all these people came in to get these discounts. And I believe if memory serves, and if the information that I was given is correct, they were offered discount cards for life, and they can go into any of the stores and get discounts on the Makeup Forever products, which, as you know, is owned by Sephora. All right, Makeup Forever is owned by Sephora. I believe, or at least it was owned by Sephora, last year when I did some research. I believe Michael Davalos is now one of the vice presidents. You remember Michael Davalos, the genius behind the makeup show in New York, all right? And so now I believe he is working with Makeup Forever. And of course the MAC company, that's an Estee Lauder owned company, is still seeming to do pretty well in light of the fact that the economy is not doing so well. So that's, it was an interesting show, and as I said, next year you have to perhaps join us there at the show. Maybe we'll create some kind of a special makeup that you can assemble there at the show.
That's a great idea.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So great. Okay. Again, Conor, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Welcome back. And for all you out there in MUA TV land, I want to thank you very much for being such a great audience. And I want you to stay tuned for more makeup and hair programming right here, right now, as Ed Sullivan used to say. Don't you go away. We'll be right back.